So many thanks, I think, to Jan. I think you did bring in something very important, which was discussed also during the conference. It's not just the market, it's really the home, it's the kind of household level, which plays a huge role in terms of kind of how gender equality is really lived. I mean, summing up, I think we have at the moment, we would have like 4 yes, 1 no, and 1 yes and no. And in fact, my feeling is all of you have the yes side. It's just depending on the interpretation of our question. And I think how conditional you make it or how unconditional you make your answer. And now I think we have 10 minutes left, and everyone from the panelists had 6 minutes. So let me give the audience now 6 minutes for questions. And I would now really gather several questions. And maybe you even can tell, whom you would like to answer, or just leave it open, and then I would do a final round, here on the panel. So Tomasz, start it.
Thank you for a wonderful panel. I have a question which goes a little bit to Isabella's argument. So, implicitly from what you said, you suggested that this modernized male breadwinner model, where a woman works part-time and a man works full-time, is not very good for fertility of highly educated. I heard a very different argument, slightly provocative way, by Melinda Mills about why Dutch fertility is relatively high, arguing that very high share of women with part-time jobs, and also many men with part-time jobs, allows highly educated women to go quickly back to the labor market and eventually have more children. Now, about the future, wouldn't it be good to ask women and men with kids how many hours they want to work, so that we know much more about the intentions of families with children about their work and how they would combine and try to give them more flexibility in that?
Some more comments or questions? Maybe we start here in the second row and then we continue in the fourth row.
Okay, two questions. I don't know who this one is for. Psychological variables affecting both education and fertility. I think that could be looked at, how instability and uncertainty might affect the desire for either immediate gratification or delayed gratification. And the second one is to Wolfgang. You talked about you don't see any natural desire for actual children or just the sex drive. What about the grandparental drive?
I think that underlying assumption of all the talks except Jan was childbearing as a rational choice. But as all of us know that often it's not the case. Especially for the frequencies of failure to the contraception among low-educated women is a part of the reason why they have a higher fertility. So how are you going to kind of take that kind of unintended part of the childbearing into your discussion? So if anyone can answer about that.
Charlotte Höhn.
Thank you very much. I'm surprised that the possibility to encourage highly educated women to find a husband or a stable partner and to form a family while they are still studying is not promoted. It's the easiest way to combine family and a real career, because whenever you have started your career, there is no ideal space. You need time, additional time, whoever does it. So if you have your family and your partner first, and then both start their careers, it's the easiest way. Thank you.
We have maybe 2 more questions we would have time. Yes, here?
I think this is more question for Bavel. I was wondering if it matters what the age of the woman, of the difference in the age of the man and the women is at the time that they decide to have a child. So maybe they can have the same educational level, but because the woman is less long on the labor market, she doesn't have the same earnings. And at the moment that they have a child, they think, okay, for the couple's income, what will be the best person to leave the labor market? And then that will most of the time be the woman.
Many thanks. One last question, unfortunately.
Thank you. It's not a comment to Jan, just something to add on top of what he said. Going back to the economics of households, I think that not all the work has to necessarily be divided between the spouses. So, as someone who is interested in outsourcing and the way purchasing services might interfere and help spouses combine work and family life, I can think of outsourcing as a way that can help educated women gain a higher fertility, especially that I observe that there is more and more consumption among households. And on the supply side, I see that there is more provision of services by welfare states, not only childcare, but also maybe people from France and Germany and Austria or from Belgium. They know that now there are the service voucher schemes that also give incentives to households to outsource housework. And also, if we take into account international labor migration, mostly of women who work in occupations that are close substitutes to housework production, then taking all this into account, I think that we will growingly see outsourcing as a way to achieve this goal.
So many thanks. Unfortunately, I have to end now the time for the audience and go back to the panel participants, and I would like everyone on the panel now to have 1 minute reply. This is kind of the opportunity cost of time we are playing here, but Alicia, you start.
I'm trying to organize my thoughts. Okay, so just in the last point that you make, actually there's 3 papers I know, one in Hong Kong, one in the US and one in Spain, that have looked at the influence of migrant women on the fertility of highly educated women, and they find a strong positive effect. So that's part of, they are choosing somehow in there. So that's actually showing the data. Regarding what's the best time for partnership, I couldn't agree more. The sooner the best, but the problem is, how marriage market works, and somehow it also has some effect on when you're young and starting, maybe you are thinking more irrationally, or you are more naive, and then you're progressing further. So that has also to do with this idea of the rationality. But of course, the problem is the marriage market. There was a very polemical, and I'm going to make like this as a joke, there was a polemical article in Princeton a couple of years ago of a woman who used to be an alumni and was recommending the girls, saying, this is the best chance of your time to find the right partner, because once you leave Princeton, you will never find such a high pool of very highly eligible and educated men. So that relates to that. So, and I think my minute is over. So I think I leave it here.
I should say maybe all of you have more space and time for a contribution than when we sum up in the Vienna Yearbook, the whole panel. Wolfgang?
Yes, there was this comment on the grandparenting drive, which I think is a very interesting idea, and it's right on spot where that this balance, this different weighting of what you do with your time and money may well shift over the life course and give children, maybe as the parents get older themselves, a higher weight, and of course they can't have children themselves anymore, but they would like to see the family somehow continue in the future. And I think this is a very valid contribution. Of course, what can they do? Well, they can try to bribe their children to have children themselves, or they can, and this may be the future for the highly educated women, is another biological mechanism to just request at least all college graduates to put egg cells into the freezer to have a somewhat extended reproductive lifespan.
Many thanks, Isabella.
Regarding your question about future cohorts, I think it will be really very interesting to know about the young cohorts out there at university, how they plan, or how many hours they would like to work, if it's full-time or part-time, and also with this a combination of the partners, with this involvement of the partner, how they see it. Because I think that actually the way families or women are combining work and family is perhaps not that attractive for younger cohorts, but I agree with you that we should just know more about their intentions and ideas in this regard. And then I would like to come back to Charlotte's remark. Yes, I think that it's one option to have the family when you are studying, but it depends very much on the flexibility of the schooling system. So if it's kind of easy to get them back and to continue your studies, or if it's not so easy to go back. And I think that if it's easier to go back and to continue to study, then this is an option. But this has to be the institutional settings according to this.
Okay. Many thanks, Diego.
Well, I think I will go to the rational choice question. I will consider that, I mean, if you are just looking to unintended pregnancies of teenagers, for example, in the Spanish case, they have gone to a neglected number, very low rate at the moment. And for other countries, like, for example, UK, has get reduced quite a lot. So I think, I mean, if you have a highly educated household, or you are getting higher educated household, quite likely this unintended pregnancy in teenagers, it will carry on going down. But that is a kind of guess.
Two short comments, one on part-time. I think the role of part-time may be different and may be driven by cultural norms, because there are some countries where women work part-time because this is the norm and not because it is a constraint, they are forced to do this. They simply think that this is the normality. So, and this is also the reason why I also found for the intention this positive effect of part-time on intention, because they simply think that it is the only opportunity to be a perfect mother and a perfect working woman, but it's not an obstacle, an objective obstacle. And the second, on the partner, I think we should look at man fertility. I completely agree with Jan, and we should look at couple, and we should look at the gender equality within the couple, the division of homework and childcare tasks. But here the crucial question is how far, to what extent men are ready to help with childcare with the first child, with the second child. I'm not sure whether with the third child, if they are so much involved, gender equality will still have a positive effect on fertility.
Okay, I think in speaking to both comments that were specifically related to my intervention, I think that as the wife's income becomes more important to the family's living standards, particularly among highly educated couples, we are finding actually in another work that we are doing that she has more say, she has more power to decide about what to spend it on. And a next step could then be, well, perhaps if she has more to say about how to spend it, she might decide to spend a larger proportion of the family income not on cars but on outsourcing care tasks. And rather than stepping down from the labor market and doing the housework yourself, you can outsource it. And I think that's what we are increasingly also finding in this new family economic situation.
Many thanks. We are now at the end, exactly at 3 o'clock, and I promised Thomas to be strict, and so I'm giving the last word to Thomas, but just let me maybe use half a minute. I think what we have learned here at the panel, I think I really cannot do a really big summary, but I mean, starting what Alicia said, I think it's the really relative meaning of education in a society where education, highly education, means something different as 10 years ago. The more people are highly educated, it depends on institutions, on labor markets, etc. We should also look at men, not just at females. We should look into the household, and we should look into also kind of households as little firms, as we discussed before, and outsourcing. And let me just say what I really like, I think, which also Jan mentioned, we should really build up new theories and get away of just like the old theories. We know it's good, but I think we should should also develop new theories. And I like this very much. It's not just specialization, it's really kind of negotiation with our partners, with our society at multi-levels, I think. And then I think I'm pretty positive. I was not asked for my opinion, but I give you my opinion. I'm positive.